Hello, welcome everyone to our Visualizing Justice Artists in Conversation. As warm of a welcome as we can for today's amazing weather. But thank you for everyone joining. So I'm Fareed, I'm an LCC changemaker, along with Anushka.
Hi guys, I'm Anushka. I'm also an LCC changemaker, a fellow graduate of the MA in Design for Social Innovation and Sustainable Futures, and it's lovely to have all of you here for the panel discussion.
So today we have a very intimate, but we have a very exciting, introspective, hopefully reflective session as well on the artist call-out that we have done. And today we will be having a very lovely panel of 4 different artists to explore on their works and their artwork with regards to the public call-out. And also to our artists, thank you so much and congratulations on being here today. And we're more than happy to have selected your amazing pieces of work to discuss in front of everyone. And overall for everyone here, today is a celebration of engaged creative practice and everything that has been brought into this project. So just to give a quick summary on today's topic, as well as visualizing justice in general. So it is a student-led, co-created platform exploring how art, storytelling, and design can function as tools for equity, critique, and transformation within higher education, as well as creative industries. So led by us, LCC Changemakers, the initiative surfaces lived experience as a legitimate form of knowledge and tests how creative practice can intervene in systems of power, access, and inclusion. So for today's Artists in Conversation, this is a brave space for everyone. So it is a student-centered, anti-extractive dialogue event that creates spaces for you and for everyone here to explain the process, positionality, and practice behind your glossary term artworks. And this is about building the community and protecting the nuance in how justice is visualized and not through performance or any presentation. So this is mainly your thinking, your process, and your story. And just a quick outline on today's session. So we'll start with the welcome and the introductions, and then we'll start with understanding the themes that are being explored today by each of our artists. Then we'll dive deeper into each of their artwork and discuss their ways of approaching, their methods of creation, and how they tie in social justice into their process. And lastly, if we have time, we might do a Q&A, but then we'll wrap up and we'll lead into our zine making session.
Before we proceed, this event is being photographed, videographed, and we've sought consent, but if at any point you feel that you're not comfortable, please do let us know, and we'll take due measures.
Amazing. So now it's time to get to know our 4 artists. So for our very 4 artists, so please introduce yourselves, your pronouns, what course you guys are or have studied in, and just how you're feeling this afternoon. So let's start with Eve.
My name is Eve Wysocki, she, her. I've graduated from London College of Fashion, Pattern and Garment Technology 2024. And how am I feeling?
Yeah, how are you feeling this afternoon?
Lots of feelings. Actually, my head's spinning a little bit. So overwhelmed, yes.
Amazing, happy to have you here. Shall we go down the line?
I'm Mabel Wynn, she, her. I am studying illustration and visual media at LCC. I'm at the end of my 2nd year. And then that how I'm feeling? I'm feeling quite hungry. I could do with a snack.
Hi, my name is Lita Wei. I go by she, her pronouns, and I'm currently in the illustration and visual media course at LCC. And in terms of how I'm feeling, to be honest, I'm slightly tired because it's the end of term, but I'm also really excited for this event, so yeah. Yay!
Amazing.
Hi, I'm Shanika Sims. My pronouns are she, her. And I did sorry, my son's excited to hear my voice. I graduated from LCC back in 2015. I did media practice, now called film practice. And I just come to the end of my master's, so I went to CSM, I did the MREDs in moving image. And I'm feeling very good today. I'm happy to be here. Thank you everyone for being here as well.
Exciting. So now before we talk about our work for our audience, so for our audience, you can see to the screens on your left as well as one of the screens on the right. We will be showing the different artworks that have been selected for the open for the artist call out. And so when we're talking about it, do look at the screens there as well. So yeah, let's jump right in. So let's talk about your artworks. So maybe let's start first by discussing what theme you guys decided to explore in your works. If there's a specific glossary term that you refer to, and why did you decide to speak on this? Yeah, whoever may start.
Okay, I guess it's me first. So the term I choose is othering. Through my garments, which are made using zero-waste pattern cutting, besides of the garment construction, I wanted to address issues like sizing systems and how conventional clothing are pushing women to look a certain way and feel a certain way when using conventional clothing. Often we feel uncomfortable with our own bodies just simply because someone said you should be this size or other size. And I discovered through my research that there's a gap. You either need to be size M or you can be plus size. There's nothing between for body that is has a different shape. Once in a while it's changing. It's smaller, it's bigger. So I feel like sizing systems makes me personally feel outside the norm.
Thank you so much for sharing. Mabel?
The glossary term I responded to was advocacy, because my designed poetry book is advocating for better understanding of how men's actions, even though they may seem small to them, can actually really impact women's lives and their ability to form and sustain relationships. And what was the other question?
Yep, so why did you decide to explore this work?
Why did I decide to explore this? That's a big question. I'd say men's actions have impacted the whole of my life, even though I haven't lived very long yet, but they've impacted the whole of my life quite deeply. And it got to the point where I'd been caused quite a lot of physical issues that are ongoing even now from it. And it means that I repeatedly end up with quite a lot of hospital trips, which is not fun. And so I remember being in the LCC library, and I'd just been sick on the tube on the way to university. And I thought, oh God, I'm getting ill again, and it's not getting solved. And I thought, okay, I'm done with this. And then I've just got a big provocative statement in the middle of my book, and I just typed that out into Photoshop and just thought, I'm finally just going to get rid of this and exercise it, basically. And that's why. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Lisa?
So my glossary terms are culture and activism. And my artwork is a website where I talked about several historical artifacts from the Victorian Albert Museum, notably are historical artifacts from foreign countries that are historically been colonized by the British Empire. And the reason for that being a lot of the artifacts in the V&A and also some other museums in the UK have really features those kind of artifacts. And it is really hard to ignore, and also as a person from those countries, that it's really hard to sort of see those artifacts and without thinking how they came here. So this is sort of like my work is sort of like a discussion to sort of look at the history and also have conversations in terms of the past and also how we can move forward from that. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Last but not least.
So the glossary term I picked was intersectionality, which is a term coined by Kimberly Crenshaw, which essentially breaks down who you are. So your gender, your class, your race, and your sexual orientation, and how that might lead to either discrimination or privilege. And that was important to me because when I started my master's, I already had a toddler, and then I had a baby. I was pregnant while doing my master's, and I didn't know I was pregnant until 3 months. I was just like constantly sick, and I was like, what's wrong with me? My husband's like, maybe take a pregnancy test. I was like, no, it can't be that, but then it was. And my experience of being a student really changed. I was in the hospital, I was having early contractions. I was trying to read and do my essays, and everything just felt like I was in crunch. And paired with exploring my blackness and just how my experience can be art. And that's essentially the work that I submitted here, which is Do Not Upload, which is a ongoing moving image project that kind of just details my life, not kind of the things you wouldn't upload to social media, hence the name Do Not Upload.
Thank you so much for that. I think all of these glossary terms, they existed as words, and we wanted you artists to interpret them through your own projects, through your own practices. And we love to understand what went behind the scenes, get to know a little bit more of your thinking. And we'd like to understand what were the titles of your projects, what mediums did you use, was there something in your practice that made you want to explore it in that particular form? Eve, do you want to start?
I was just about to ask. Maybe we can switch to the second.
Of course, of course.
Okay, so the title of my work is Do Not Upload, and I use multiple mediums. I use moving image. I also use my diary notes, so I kind of write about my experiences of being pregnant at uni. I kind of really contemplated dropping out and just forgetting this whole thing altogether. I kind of at a push did my master's because I already had a kid, and that's great, now I've got another thing to think about. And I also use a lot of audio recordings. So I use the sounds that are naturally within the clips, and I also did a voiceover. And then my son gate crashed that voiceover, and you got the sound of the baby crying, and then my husband talking, and then the vacuum, and just all these noises and sounds that when I was playing it back, I was like, wow, how can I work in these conditions? But I do. It's kind of really interesting to kind of reflect on the way that I make my work. It's not so much in the late nights. It's in the day, it's, while baby wearing, while, being nagged for another crackers, just all these things that go on in my day-to-day. And yeah, that's it.
I mean, I think it's really amazing that you're juggling all of these things, but at the same time, centering your own, lived experience through it as well. I think maybe, contextualizing maybe a bit more in terms of your work. How was it honestly co-creating with your son? Or with your children being a big part of this?
I felt like I had no other choice but to do that, because I was thinking about, the fact they're non-consenting, my two kids, they're in the film, and right now it's playing on screens, and it's not publicly out, but it gets shown in spaces like this. And I just felt like if I didn't include them, it would feel a bit eerie, because they are a part of my life. My home is the art studio for me. And if I kind of excluded them from the work, it would just feel a bit empty. And I hope as the kind of years go on that they can have more of a say in the works and maybe say, oh, Mom, maybe try this and that. And it's more of a collaborative project. And then when I pass on, they can continue the project in their own way and just continue just expressing themselves and understanding that your lived experience is enough, especially in the institution where sometimes you're not the majority, that you can create theory from your life. Kind of like what Bell Hooks said as well.
Amazing. And do any of our artists want to respond or contribute what they think to this?
I think that's really interesting, because I always was under the impression that everyone else was sort of in student accommodation or in a similar sort of shared accommodation with 6 other students sort of situation. And I thought I was the only one. I mean, there's nothing like your life at all. But I thought I was the only one who sort of had a life sort of set up, because I took a few years out and I now live with my partner. And I did notice that, I have noticed the last couple of years, that just living with someone else who I love, actually he becomes a massive part of the creative process, and it is sort of very collaborative. And I'm just happy to hear that that's the case for you as well.
I think it's nice that your work that starts in the institution can spread into your personal space. Even just having someone here, like you can run through a presentation, oh babe, can you listen to it, what do you think? And they give you opinions. And that their positionality being not on your course just gives you the extra edge of, oh, I didn't think about that. I'm going to explain things a bit more and not just assume everyone understands all the terms. So yeah, I think there's something nice about working with other people. Because even my husband, we met at LCC actually. So now that I'm doing my master's, and he's like, oh, you should try this and try that. Sometimes it's yes, sometimes like, I think it's fine here. And it's about understanding where that collaboration starts and where it stops. So the work is still yours, and you can kind of work from your parameter and have your own kind of taste. Because sometimes your taste can be diluted when you're in a partnership or relationship. You can kind of merge into one, but understanding what I like is what I like. And, you know, if it fails, at least it failed because of my choices, not because of somebody else's.
Amazing. And I think one of the important things here is also like you having your own agency and your own space to reflect through your creative practice within an institutional space first, but like still keeping that integrity and bringing it out into the real world as yourselves. And I think this could be a good opportunity maybe to share maybe with Lisa your work. If you're happy to share more about your artwork, the title.
So the medium I'm utilizing digital illustration as well as website. And I created the digital illustration first. And that actually I went through 2 iterations of that. So the first version is to completely draw the artifacts on my own and just completely reinterpret the historicity of it. But I had a discussion with my tutor, and she said that it's better to sort of use the images of the artifact, so to be more accurate and authentic, as well as just to create like a sort of urgency to it. And I eventually settled with sort of like a collage kind of style, and I'm quite happy with that. And also one of the key elements of my creation is to sort of discuss sort of like this sort of like a heavy topic, sort of, because when we talk about history, we think about it as something that happened in the past that doesn't really have anything to do with the current, but it's not actually the case. And also colonialism is sort of like a thing that we don't really like to discuss. It's not a fun topic. So the key aspect is to sort of educate the public, but also in sort of like an intelligent way. And so I sort of want to talk about it in like a sort of like an open kind of way, but also maybe with a little bit of sarcasm and humor to, sort of just soften like the edge of this topic. And the reason for choosing a website is that it can be easily distributed, because just with an URL. So yeah, it's more accessible. So yeah.
I think that's so interesting because you find your voice in these complexities and you channelize it through these amazing ways of navigating the complexities through your own experiences. So, do you want to go next?
Sure. Yes, I think. Let me see. So my collection is called Zero Waste, One Size, and using the whole piece of fabric that it's produced to make the garment. So nothing is thrown to waste while making the design. And when studying pattern garment design, I discovered that zero waste making is impossible to make in a large-scale production, and I decided to challenge that and wanted to create something that that will be sustainable, but also multifunctional, that will benefit the wearer. So instead of just using the fabric to maybe turn it into some decorations, I'm trying to use every piece to come up with the systems to wrap the body, to make the pleats, to make additional pockets, kind of use it the smart way, not just to decorate the design.
I think that's interesting because, like, with fashion and textile, I think you reach a space of monotony, but like you've really tried to see the pluriversal aspect within that as well, with medium, with fabrics, and then with execution finally.
Yes, I discovered that one size garments exist, but it's misused, the meaning of this word. Usually it means it's still standard size, just within 2-3 size range, and the pieces I came up with, they can fit 12 size ranges.
Amazing. I think one of the things that I'm going to ask you and everyone on the panel as well is that I think, especially when you're explaining, I think it's very clear that the small, like, minute intentional decisions actually, like, carry a lot of thought and carry a lot of, like, pieces of your own, like, alignments and identity along with it. So I guess, open question, feel free to start. But yeah, I guess how do you kind of decide, or what is like pushing you through these like minute details or minute intentional additions or decisions that you make within your artworks?
Just personal experience. I've been personally frustrated with what the industry was seeing me and my body and how I felt in fitting rooms. I felt constantly rejected, like I don't belong. So I figured I will come up with a solution.
Anyone else wants to respond to this?
Actually, personally for me, I just found that I actually need a lot of, I need some, not a lot, but like I need some encouragement in terms of talking about this. Because in the past, I have also talked about some other issues that may be a little bit hard to sort of have a conversation with. And actually, I've talked about this. I found that my tutors has been like a pillar of support for me, because she actually encouraged me to sort of have my own voice and in like the matter, and just to firmly believe in myself. And I also found that research helps a lot, because I think in a lot of discussions, we sort of tend to sort of just throw out our opinions, but like research is sort of the way to like to sort of give yourself like a belief in your opinion. And also yeah, it did took a lot of research when I was doing this project. And actually one part actually the purpose of doing this website is also to sort of like not just like to express my opinion, but also there's an element of sort of like an education, or maybe providing a discourse for this kind of subject. So yeah, I think research is very important as well.
Amazing. Yeah, I think it's definitely like about, there's so much you can like bring about through your voice, which is not, sometimes it's not just your own. And I think like creative expression, as like the three of you have explained so far, has been like really kind of like empowering to your communities and to your like own lived experiences as well. So yeah, maybe let's go to Mabel. If you would like to share about your work, your title, medium. Speak into the mic.
Oh, sorry. So my work is a poetry book. It's when I was talking to my first stockist, I asked him, what actually is this in the book and sort of magazine world? How would you define this? And he said it's a fine art publication. So it sounds very pretentious, but that's apparently technically what it is. So It's that it's a book. I don't think it can be defined in one medium other than just book, really. It's photography, illustration, writing, and it's about 20 poems, I think. And it's all very experimental, and it's all these different mediums shoved together, and I usually really focus on a really smooth finish, and with this I deliberately sort of made it quite crass, the culmination of all the different mediums, to try and get across a feeling of discomfort and rawness to the audience, basically. And yeah, I think that's it.
So maybe could you explain more in terms of like your experimental like approaches with it, especially with, like, I think when we recovered as well in terms of experimental writings and as well as like the visuals that you have in your book. How did you kind of like guide through that process for yourself?
That was an intense process. I decided to combine poems that I'd been writing over about 3 years. So I had quite a lot of poems, not too many. I had probably about 25 to 30, and that I'd done over like the first 3 years of my adult life. And basically I just decided to put them all on separate pages and print them all out and just read through them all and edit them manually. And then a lot of them were combined, some of them were just cut out. And so yeah, that was the first stage. Then, because I had the physical hard copies of them, I then separated them into 5 different topics, basically. And then I ordered them chronologically, because I decided that was a good way to express the sort of impact of things. Then I went about creating illustrations that matched the feelings of each poem, and then found photography that I'd done at the time as well, that poem had sort of taken place, and basically just experimented combining them all in Photoshop, and like with words and text design that some people don't agree with because it's difficult to read. I'd say it's not accessible if you're dyslexic. My partner is dyslexic and he really struggles to read it. But yeah, that's how basically.
Yeah, I think one of the main themes that run across all 4 of your works is that there's a lot of like internal reflection that comes in within that situated time and place before you create the artworks. And I think one of the things that I would like to open the floor to all 4 of you, it's just kind of like your reflection process in a more creative and socially engaged way. If anyone would like to start and share about that. Heavy question.
I don't mind going first. I think my process kind of started with the way that I wanted to try and cross the finishing line. So it's the end of the first year. I'd given birth on the 1st of July. I have an extension where it kind of collides with that very early postpartum period where it's very hard to do anything. But I was able to just get over the finishing line and do my essay. And then I just started to really push forward. And I was just thinking about, you know what, fair enough, right now it's not maybe an ideal situation to be doing all this work, but it's a privilege to have access to education. And I started to just shift my mindset to the opportunity that I have. And then I felt very othered, because in my class I wasn't attending in person. Of course, a year's gone by, people have formed kind of friendships and cliques. So I was just like, you know what, I just need to lean into my difference. So that was, you know, the fact that I have 2 kids, it's the fact that I have like 10 plus year experience before doing my master's, and I just tried to not overthink. That's my main thing, because normally when I do narrative work or content work, there's a lot of overthinking, because there's planning, there's a budget, there's people that are expecting a certain level from me, right? But with this project, I just said to myself, I just want to lean into what makes sense for me. I want to lean into my first initial instinct. And that came with the titling, the way the images are overlaid, and just everything else. So I think that was important, to just start with myself and not think about the audience or anything else that can come after that, which was very different to life beforehand.
I think that's really powerful, actually, because like you're really relying on your own like creative voice, and you are just naturally like intrinsically like bringing your identity into your creative practice, which it's really mesmerizing.
No, thank you. And I think for me, my positionality was never something that was really in my work beforehand. I was kind of bookmarking it for a later date. I don't know when. So it was only when I was speaking to someone, they just said, what are you waiting for? Because anything can happen at any time. You just need to do it now. Because you need to fail quick. You know all these kind of like self-help woo-woo terms that you might roll your eyes at. But it's very true. If you're going to do something, you have a goal. You just need to start and do it in public and see how people react. But you need to start from within. So that's kind of what I use the masters for. That was my safety net. If it doesn't work, it's a student project. You know, that's the nice thing about being a student, that you're allowed to test things out. You're in the institution. It's not going to necessarily ruin your career. You're a student. So I took the opportunity to lean into that and not overthink and just like be overly critical of myself.
Amazing. Does anyone else would like to respond?
I think it's interesting, and the idea of, you know, when you decide to do a project, it's often you as an artist deciding to finally take action of something that you've wanted to make for a while, because that's definitely how I felt. Because these poems I worked with, I'd been working on and writing for like 3 years, and then often when I wrote one, I didn't really look back on it. But I knew that I liked them, mostly. And I knew that I really wanted to make a project with them, but I didn't know how I was going to do that. But, you know, I was sort of being creatively lazy with that project because I was leaving it and thinking, I'll come back to it later, I'll do it at some point. And then when we got set a brief at university, that's when I thought, okay, I've got to do this at some point. I've got to do something with these poems, because also, just like psychologically, all that stuff is still there. And that's a way of taking that power back, especially from difficult experiences. And I decided, okay, I don't know what I'm going to do with this, how I'm going to do it, but I need to decide. So I just sort of really pushed myself to, if I'm going to do it now. And then it all just sort of, making that hard decision and making no excuses for myself, is then what forced that project to happen in the way it was supposed to. So, yeah.
I think that's so interesting with words, with poetry, with texts. I think they hold a version of you. And as we're getting close to wrapping up, we'd love to know that how do you think you're going to keep, continuing your practice with this lens of social justice and racial justice?
I'd say it ends up coming into all the projects that I've worked on, to be honest. But it always comes out in different ways. Like, this is a very sort of serious project and can be quite uncomfortable for some people.
Right.
But I also love illustrating animals, and I like doing lots of projects around sort of around environmental justice with the animals. But also I found, especially this year, that as I've been illustrating animals, making picture books out of them, that I can also bring social justice into that, especially when it's for children, because it's an early way to teach children and inspire younger generations to sort of make change and see more vulnerable people in treat them more equally. So I found that even when I'm not approaching things from a serious personal perspective, just with lots and lots of theoretical research, which there's actually a lot of in art, there's a lot of theoretical research in producing something good, I found. Just in that, I can create something in any sort of type of output, serious or fun and cosy, and still try and inspire good with it. So that's how I'm going forward.
Yeah, that's lovely. I think I'd love to extend the same question to the rest of you as well. Like, how do you want to continue to develop your practice from the lens of social and racial justice?
I just want to say, also, I worked with my archives as well, and it's so interesting when you talk about the need to use them. So my film was made with 2.5 years of archive, because at the time my son was 2.5 years old. And whenever you have a pregnancy, you see other people do announcements on Instagram. It looks so fun. I was like, I never did any of that. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna keep that and I'll do something with it. But I didn't know what. So what I did was this film. But besides that point, I think I enjoy engaging with theory as well. A lot of my work now from the MRED, especially when you do Masters of Research, is very intense and it's very individual. I've been doing a lot of research into kind of feminist studies and post-colonial studies, and auto theory is a big one for me. So reading Fournier's book on just feminist history of that, and I'm kind of extending that to allowing the moving image to be part of auto theory as well. And I just hope to continue documenting my life, and hopefully any other woman or person that has caregiving, whether it's being a caregiver or parent, which I'm both, that you don't have to stop extending yourself. You can still go to university. It's hard, it's not going to be easy, so it's not something I recommend, because I only recommend easy, relaxing things. I would never recommend being pregnant while doing your masters with a kid and all these other things, but there's a reward that comes with that. and just highlight the things that aren't necessarily a pleasing aesthetic online. Having, posset on your clothes, like baby vomit, changing like nappies, it's not aesthetic, but everyone shows themselves in like a 400-pound baby carrier. So just showing the truth, my truth at least, that being a parent, being an artist, being a writer, being a researcher, it sounds nice, but it's hard, and it's got sides to it that aren't glamorous, just like everything does. But we live in a society where it's a highlight reel, it's a constant highlight reel, job opportunities, I've got this, I got that. No one talks about their low points. So I think I just want to engage with my truth as much as possible while still kind of preserving my privacy, so not accidentally doxing myself by filming myself on my own street and all those other things as well.
Amazing, thank you.
Well, I've just opened my studio where I'm planning to work more on my pieces, explore more how the zero waste, one size garments can be developed, and I would love to test them on users and give as much feedback from the people as I can, and possibly educate another students, colleagues about the zero waste pattern making, and bring up the issue of sizing more out to the public.
So I primarily worked in the illustration and graphic novel medium, and I'd like to be a storyteller that tells stories of those who are marginalized and doesn't really have a voice, because I noticed that a lot of the mainstream story tend to have like sort of like a fixed kind of a narrative to it. And for me, social justice isn't just about self-expression because you belong to a certain marginalized communities. I think it's also a matter of doing the right things, and maybe being an ally, because you don't really have to belong to a certain community to do the right thing. So yeah, that's my take.
Amazing, thank you so much to all four of you for sharing like everything that's been like driving your creative practice and your work. And I think right now we can open it up to the floor for a quick Q&A session. So if anyone has any questions for any of our artists, please come up to me and we'll take your questions.
I think we have a mic. Joy, do we have a mic?
Are there any questions?
Okay. In this world of the Internet of Things, open data and AI, how do you think that's going to contribute further to your work by being able to tap into all of those and synergistically use them?
Don't even get me started on that. I'd say that I've noticed a lot of practitioners. I'd say that UAL actually is quite split on this. I would assume that UAL would have like one general idea, especially on AI and data and stuff. But I'd say that it's incredibly individual. You can get 5 different practitioners in a room, all practitioners from the same practice and discipline, and they all have completely different opinions on AI and data. I'd say that in the circles of art that I'm in, they're all generally, not in favour of incorporating it into your practice. But there was a very interesting lecture I attended recently from a man who works in AI and art, and he was talking about using the technology of AI rather than the wider companies and corporations of AI, which is by creating your own AI sort of machines and systems and putting only data that you've created and collected into that to then create something. And that is an interesting research model and sort of installation type thing that you can use that is only combined with your own work but is still using that new technology. And I found that a really interesting sort of middle ground, personally.
I feel like my work, I do have plans to create new works for YouTube, so that's me engaging with the internet. When it comes to my children, that work they won't be involved in, because there's such a fine line of including your kids on something that's a YouTube project, and then all of a sudden it's like a vloggy mummy channel, and then you're on the pipeline to prison. So that's not something that I will personally do. With AI, I personally don't use it in my work. I know a lot of I'm in a class of 10. Maybe there's like 3-4 people that do use AI. They claim for everything but the writing. I'm like, okay, I don't know how you stopped at the dissertation, but hey ho. And I think there's nothing wrong with it. It's just about, like, personally how you feel. I don't like the way it makes me sound. I've seen people use it, and I think it's just nice to kind of tap into that critical thinking that you can have. And sometimes if you don't use it, you will lose it. And that's something that already being sleep deprived and everything else that I'm scared of. So I try my best to exercise my brain and to push my thoughts and my research to not rely on the internet, because what if it stops working? Then what am I going to do? And if it's AI's giving it to me, how many other people has it given it to? So at least in my own perspective and lean into my positionality and the things I've done before, I can then hopefully create something that can touch someone because it's uniquely mine versus my chatbots. Even if it's like that thing you were saying, a lot of people talk about that. Oh, you can feed it. I was like, I already feed 2 kids. I don't want to feed anyone else. So yeah, that's where I'm leaving it at.
Okay, thank you very much. We have another question over here. Sorry if you don't mind coming forward.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. I think that's quite short.
Hi. This question is for you, Shanika. I'm going to try my best to word this in the best way that I can. I'm really a fan of your art and how raw it is. I find that very refreshing. I wanted to ask, like, how have you been able to, like, kind of overcome that battle, that fear of, like, being so seen by the world in such, like, just like, yeah, being seen.
Thank you so much for your kind words. I think, for context, when I graduated from here, when I was undergrad, I was 21, and now I'm 32. So I think a part of it does come with age and experience. And also, I got to the point where I'm just like, if I'm afraid of being seen, nothing great's going to happen to me. If I don't get out my comfort zone, nothing different's going to happen to me. So even when I was editing the work, like, for example, I know there's only a short clip, but I show, like, the aftermath of me giving birth, getting stitched up, and, I'm not looking like this. I look very different in the videos. I was like, I have to do that because when I was younger, I would have loved to have seen something like that, and that this also can be an output. So I think there's a lot of that, as cliche could be, creating works that my younger self would like to see. There's a lot of doing something that feels right. It felt right to me in that moment to put that work together. And I kind of did that thing of where you, like, close your eyes and you just, like, push it out into the world. And now people are responding to it. And I think that's what I was saying with the AI thing. That's the idea that I had. It wasn't something that the chatbot gave me. And yeah, I think the fear of being seen is tough, but I'm at the point now where I'm like, I would love to explore my creativity and expand on it. So, and being seen, I think, is a part of that. And it's very uncomfortable. Even now, like, being on stage is not a thing I'm used to doing. I've done it a few times, but, I just know it comes with the kind of career I'd like to have. The goal for me is to hopefully be a thought leader and to be a lecturer and all these things. So if I can't show my work in its honesty, and the word used is raw, that's actually a word that I use as well. If I can't be raw, then how can I be myself? If I'm continuously not being myself in these public spaces, then who am I? Am I still operating in this world where, I'm still being colonized to not show my truth, and then I'm making myself small? It sounds very like, but that's what it is sometimes. I think we have to create that work that makes us feel uncomfortable, and as long as you like it as a person, then it's enough, and that truth will then, people can see, like, real sees real, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I think I have time for one last question.
One last question.
If there is any. Joy?
Thank you. This question is for all 4 of you, or anybody who feels like they can answer it. I think creating art or any sort of artwork is a deeply reflective process. And as you said, after that process doesn't sort of end, but there comes a time where other people see and respond to it. So I was wondering, what is something that you discovered after you made it like have people see it and engage with it and respond to it? So is there something that surfaced or that came up or you learned about after your artwork was out there?
I think for me, I was very surprised that, firstly, that it's sold. Because I mean, you don't often see that in bookshops, and they struggle to shelve it because of that dimension. So they often ended up shelving it like that. So I was surprised when it sold, especially as poetry has a reputation. It doesn't sell, but yeah. And I was surprised when it got positive responses from people who understood. I was surprised when people, men as well, actually got in touch with me and said that they understood and that they got it. They got the feelings I was talking about, and that made me realise that this is really needed. People need to hear this side of women's experiences because they are quite censored. Because you don't want to be ever too much or too political as a woman or be complaining. And yeah, that showed me that people do need to hear that, because I know that at one point I needed that and still do actually. So, and also I was surprised when people told me that they really liked the experimentalism of the book design as well. And that it reframed, one person said that it reframed how they thought a book could actually be. And for some people it's sort of breaking the rules or can you actually do that? But for some people it's reframing a really known traditional format and giving it a whole other sort of idea of what they could do with it as well. So yeah, that was me.
Well, I get what reaction I get is disbelief. People don't believe that those clothes can fit everybody, or at least a lot of a big range of people. So it's a sign for me that I have a lot of work to do and marketing to do, which is hard work, and it will take me probably several years to come across the fashion world, let's say.
And for me, the lesson I learned is that to not be in my own head, and then not to have like an assumption of how people will receive my work. Because like I mentioned before, I tend to have sort of like a concern of like in terms of like talking about difficult subjects. I tend to sort of hold back, or maybe just to avoid it altogether, even though I do have an opinion. So I think one lesson is to just sort of have confidence and maybe do some research as well to back up your opinions, and also just generally don't just assume, like the worst of yourself and also of other people. Just have faith.
I think the most surprising thing for me was how many people could relate and see themselves or relate to the project, especially because when the archives were recorded, I didn't record it with the intent of releasing them. They were just literally like personal moments that I just wanted to watch back for myself. And I think it's nice that people, no matter what kind of race, gender, orientation, generation, they kind of see that as a truth, and at least they can identify it as that.
Perfect, amazing, thank you so much. So I think with that, we've come to the end of the Artist in Conversation.
Yes. I just want to say that with Visualizing Justice, we wanted to explore how we can use art, design, and storytelling as tools for critique and transformation. And your works have really helped illustrate that for us. The panel session, our Artists in Conversation, aimed to create safe and brave spaces. And I really feel that with the pluriversality that we have with each of your works, you've created that brave space for more students and more artists to get their work out there, find their own voice and their own being in this realm of social justice. So thank you so much to all of you for participating in this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So for everyone, all of their artworks will be uploaded to the UAL Arts Showcase website, and we will be disseminating that or find it on our Instagram pages. And now we will be having our zine making workshop, where we will respond to the different themes that we've been discussing throughout as well. So help yourself with more refreshments, and we will get started shortly. So thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.